Hi, Louise Zito. Thank you again for joining our divorce literacy podcast series. I appreciate you showing up.
Good morning, Mark.
Good
Thank you
morning.
for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I want to take a couple minutes to go over some of the highlights of the bio that you sent me because I think it's really important that our listeners understand some of your accomplishments throughout the way. You've mediated family and related matters for over 35 years. Um, and you've also done a lot of collaborative work, which is awesome. You train divorce professionals in advanced family mediation and collaborative practice topics. You're a senior fellow to the Quinnipiac School of Law Center on dispute resolution. You are an APFM certified advanced practitioner, a current board member and past president of the Connecticut Council on Non-Adversarial Divorce. You co-founded Divorce Solutions of Connecticut and the Connecticut Family Mediation Training Groups. You are a member of the Connecticut the Connecticut Summit of Collaborative Professionals, Connecticut Collaborative Connections, Academy of Professional Family Mediators, the International Association of Collaborative Professionals. You are on the steering committee for the Task Force on Reimagining Family Dispute Resolution, a joint project with CCND and the Center on Dispute Resolution. You are a principal in the Center for Family Mediation and Collaborative Divorce and partner in the Calma Collective, which offers advanced training for family professionals. And you are currently of counsel to the Dolan family divorce lawyers. So quite a list of accomplishments over your 35 years, and something I felt like I really needed to highlight to those watching because you are certainly a stalwart in the community.
Oh,
So
well,
thank you so much.
Yes, thank
How has your transition to Dolan been over the last couple of years? I know that's relatively new for you.
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, I really love it. It was the perfect fit for me at the time, still is. So it enabled me to start easing my way into retirement.
Yep.
Yeah, so quite different from having the responsibilities of a full partnership. Um, though I loved my old law firm, and it was on a personal level, it was hard to leave.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but
But you're still very, very involved in the non-adversarial divorce community
I
and
am.
doing
Yes.
quite a bit, even your latter years of your career.
Yeah, well, I think this happened probably to most of us that got involved in non-adversarial processes like mediation and collaboration, is that I had a horrible litigation case over child custody that was in the courts for 12 years. And if we weren't in court every year, we were in court every other year. And, all at the end of it, it broke my heart because
Yeah.
the child was so severely impacted from the years of fighting between the parents.
Well, that'll certainly sway just about anybody, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
I was telling my good friend Barbara Stark, who's a legend in the mediation community, about this case, and she said, "Come on over, Louise."
It's time.
Time.
Well, that's wonderful. How long ago was that?
Oh gosh, well, probably about 30 years. No,
Okay.
20. That probably. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
That was probably more like 20, 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I just,
early on in your career.
yeah, it's like hard to remember
Yep.
all the landmarks, but
And I'm sure there wasn't many attorneys doing mediation, or collaborative wasn't even a thing back then, if I'm not mistaken.
that's correct. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there weren't many doing family mediation. I was actually doing family mediation with a mental health professional for gay couples before all of the laws changed and they had no rights under the law. And I didn't even realize that's what I was doing, Mark. And then, like 10 years later, I got
Yeah.
trained.
Yeah, like, yeah, I've been doing that forever.
Oh, that's what I was doing?
Well, I'm sure you've learned quite a bit over the years. if you could change anything about the divorce process and give any advice to someone that's just starting down the path, is there anything specific that you kind of would do?
Someone starting down the path career-wise or getting a divorce? I'm just
Getting a divorce
Getting a divorce,
specifically.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would. I think far too often people come to us and one person has already left the relationship, and the other person feels blindsided, and so they're very far apart emotionally. And I think what happens is there's signs throughout the marriage, and we have a tendency to ignore them and think, oh, well, I don't have time to address that right now. I have a 2-year-old, or I don't have time to address that right now. My mother's in the hospital, and they kind of build, and your normal becomes a new normal. And so you're missing the signs. So I would say, don't ignore those signs. Look at them and take some steps. There's a thing called marital mediation where you mediate to save the marriage rather than to get a divorce. There's couples therapy, there's discernment therapy. All of these are available to people who find that they're in trouble, and maybe if they take a deep breath, kind of take an honest look at where they are in life, and look at some of the other resources available to them, maybe the marriage could be saved.
So before getting into the divorce process,
Right.
take a check, take the temperature of the relationship and see if there's a possibility of saving it.
Right.
Well, that's
Right.
great advice.
Yeah, I mean, we all like to see marriages saved. I had one successful mediation that started off as a divorce mediation and switched to a marital mediation, and that was wonderful.
That must have been rewarding.
It was, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
If a couple has, taken your advice and they've checked and they decide that they're going to go down the road of divorce, any kind of what to look for, ideas, something that they could kind of keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I think that no matter what process they choose, and I'll talk about that in a minute, I think it's really important to be patient. As I said before, usually one person's ahead of the other person emotionally. But there's also, even when both are on board, there's a tendency to want to rush things because you're in such pain, you just want it to be over.
Yeah.
And you're not making good decisions. And then the divorce doesn't become final, because if you're making fast decisions that you haven't had time to reflect upon, you're going to be back in court. And that's why choosing the right process is so important. I litigated for years, and I certainly think that there's a place for litigation. In my heart, I like to see people, if they can, mediate or do collaborative divorce, because I think those processes allow for time, and allow you to make decisions that align more with what's really important to you and, well, to both of you. And we don't normally see that in litigation.
Do you mind taking a minute to just discuss the 3 topics or the 3 areas of divorce?
Sure.
That you're talking about?
Yeah. So in mediation, you meet with a neutral mediator. In Connecticut, it could be a financial professional, it could be a mental health professional, it could be an attorney. But that person's neutral, and they're there to help facilitate the conversations that have to happen in order for you to make decisions, eventually make decisions on all of the things that have to be decided within your divorce. Both mediation and collaboration are what we call interest-based. So at the very beginning of the process, we find out what's most important to everybody in the room. Not the mediator, but the couple.
Yes.
And then, and it can also be co-mediation. If there's tricky financial issues, and I'm mediating as an attorney, I might want to have a financial person by my side, or a mental health person if there's been a lot of trauma to the family and there's children, it's usually helpful. In collaborative divorce, each party is represented by an attorney, but it's a different kind of advocacy. So it's an advocacy to be fair and reasonable and help people get their interests met, as opposed to what's the most that I cannot absolutely get and kind of ignoring the rest of the family.
Yep.
And that's a team approach. So a full team would have a mental health professional who's neutral and a financial professional who's neutral. And the attorneys are not neutral, obviously. They each represent their own client. And that process is helpful for people that have a difficulty or are having difficulty speaking up for themselves or articulating what's going on, and they feel the comfort of having an advocate in the room.
Yep.
And then litigation, which is the traditional model, which is still the foundation of our family court system.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And people within the court system, many people feel the same way, but it's the system we're kind of stuck with right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's adversarial. Now, depending on the attorneys involved, it may be less adversarial, but it's still an adversarial process, and it doesn't really pay attention to the individual interests of the parties, but typically goes by judicial norms. And those also vary throughout the state, depending on what jurisdiction you're in.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something else?
I don't want to diss litigation because there are people for whom mediation and collaborative divorce just won't work. So I think we still need that alternative.
But the benefits of mediation and collaboration, you're bringing that team concept around the divorcing couple to help them through the process and all aspects of the process.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
you know, if you litigate, you have a million people involved in your divorce anyway.
Yeah.
We're not there to serve you because you didn't choose them.
Right.
You know, they're court appointed. So
may not be in the best interest of the family.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm sure you have many memorable cases that you've worked on over the years. Any one that you would like to share that was most impactful for you?
Well, I thought a lot about this, and I can't give too many details, but
Sure.
I actually had 3 cases that come to mind, and they all had a similar foundation. Well, 2 of the 3 had a similar foundation in that the parenting styles couldn't be further apart in a million years. And there were disagreements coming into the divorce on how the children should be educated, how they should be disciplined, what religion they should follow, and how medical issues should be addressed. And in 2 of those cases, what I saw were people really taking the time to put the children first and really listening to each other. And amazingly, in both cases, there was a resolution, and people were able to move forward with their lives, and their children were protected.
That's great.
Yeah. And then the other case, in those 2 cases, one was collaborative, one was a co-mediation with a mental health professional. And then in another case, I had a co-mediation with a financial professional. And that case was rather unique. There had been a traumatic event in the family, and the family was really reeling from the repercussions of that event, which included one of the parents losing their job. And coming into that mediation, one parent was going to have to be dependent on the other one financially, totally, for many years to come. And that's a really difficult story. Yeah. That's a hard thing to process. And they got through it. And again, they just worked so hard, and they respected the love that they still had for each other and the positive things about the marriage and just worked really hard to get it resolved. So those cases, those cases make it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure. You have to wonder, those first two cases that you were talking about, how they disagreed on so many key factors of the family and the decisions. You have to wonder how they even got married in the first place.
I know.
But it's remarkable that they kind of brought.
Right? Yeah.
What's that?
Opposites attract.
Yeah.
I think to that.
Yeah.
And I think they probably needed that difference, but it just became too extreme when children came along and
Sure.
they had those decisions. Yeah.
But great that they were able to work it out together and come to agreements on everything.
Absolutely.
Excellent stories.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's the challenging stories that you told me prior to us hitting the record button, how, you made the decision to go from litigation to mediation when you had a really difficult case. I think that's really impactful as well. Sometimes those really difficult cases are monumental in our careers, for sure.
They are, because you start thinking, what is my role here really?
Yeah.
And do I want to take part in a process that harms a child?
Yep.
And it's their door opening experiences.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that you're in the twilight of your career, but you're still doing some consultations and that sort of stuff.
Right.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you to talk with you, where's the best place for them to reach you?
Probably through my email at Dolan Family Lawyers, and it's lzito@dolanfamilylaw.com.
Okay, and we'll post that information along with the video as well. So
yeah,
but that's your preference.
Yeah, that'd be the best way to reach me, and I'm happy to talk with someone at no charge for like 15 to 30 minutes to see if I can help them or someone else in the firm can help them.
Wonderful. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave with us today?
Yeah, I think probably for people getting divorced or contemplating divorce, just choose the process that works for you, and make sure you're working with someone who's trained and someone you feel comfortable with. Make sure the person you seek out is really listening to you and not kind of trying to fit you into a cookie cutter framework or structure.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you again, Louise. It was a real pleasure having you.
Thank you, Mark. It was great seeing you and talking with you.
Thanks again.